Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and today we're going to talk about the king of baseball, the king of baseball in the 19th century, and that was Mike Kelly, and you know him now as King Kelly. And why was he the king? Because he's considered to have been not just one of the best players of the 19th century, but one of the most popular players, and one of the players that reinvented the game. So I'm going to share some King Kelly cards, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what King Kelly did for baseball and why he's considered the king, and that's the name that he received. And first of all, I'm going to start off with the team he played for, and one of my oldest cards. This is the 1886 Lorillard Chicago team card. And these cards I'm going to share with you are all very rare, especially this one here, because this shows the entire Chicago team. And the Chicago team ended up winning, I think it was 8 pennants with players like King Kelly, Cap Anson, and I'll give you a good look at these. Pitchers Clarkson, McCormick, Pfeiffer, and just many top players of the day, including Billy Sunday, who ended up being the most well-known preacher during those days. But the star of the team was the King Kelly, and Cap Anson was, basically the captain, and that's why his name is Cap. His real name is Adrian Anson. But King Kelly, and this card I'll share with you a little bit more about just this card. It's a schedule card of the 1886 schedule for the team, for the Chicago team, the home games and the road games. And you can see the schedule right there. It's an official league schedule. And these were inserted in Climax tobacco, loose tobacco packs, Climax plug cards, plug tobacco cards. And you can see that's kind of Dumbo. In those days, he was called Jumbo. Unfortunately, this is missing a little piece of the card, which is the tobacco logo was cut out many years ago. You can see that was copyrighted here. Give you a good look at some of the players there. And a lot of these are Hall of Famers. There's Billy Sunday, Dalrymple, Williamson, there's Cap Anson, there's Clarkson, one of the best pitchers during the day, and there's King Kelly. There's Flint, and there's McCormick, another one of the top pitchers during the day, and Pfeiffer, which was the second baseman. So you could see the catcher was Flint, and Kelly, even though Kelly was mostly an outfielder, he also played catcher, and I'll talk to you a little bit about why he was the catcher. And Cap Anson, first base, pitcher Clarkson, third base was Williamson, left fielder, right fielder was Billy Sunday, center fielder was Gore, and the shortstop was Burns. And Pfeiffer is six. So didn't have many players in those days because, again, it was really the beginning of baseball. So the roster was fairly small. So many of these players had to play many positions, and one of the ones that played virtually every position was Kelly. He actually even pitched a little bit, but his main positions were center field and catcher. And Kelly was not only one of the most popular players of his day, but he was also, one of the top players. He was also one of the most popular players. He played in the late 1870s and 80s, and during that time, he was the biggest drawing card in the sport. Kelly helped the Chicago White Stockings to 5 pennants. This team won 5 pennants. And when he was sold to the Boston Beaneaters for an incredible total of $10,000, fans were so upset that many refused to attend Chicago's home opener that followed. So I'm going to share with you also one of his rarer cards, and this is the 1887 King Kelly bare head with the Chicago on shirt. Now, this card is extremely rare. There's only like 5 of these known, because even though he came out in, I think it was 12 different poses in the 1887 Old Judge cards, there's only 2 or 3 that he actually came out with the portrait. And this was one that shows that he was still in the Chicago shirt, where later he was traded to Boston, and he comes out in the Boston shirt later on. But you can see there, $10,000 Kelly, and that was the biggest signing bonus that was ever given to any player back in the day. And these are extremely tough to get with the great photograph and the great image, because they're literally photos of the players. And this one, fortunately, even though it's a 1, it's because it was stuck in a scrapbook. And because it was in a scrapbook, that's why the picture is still so clean and bold. So I'll give you a good look at that as I talk to you a little bit more about Kelly. Go ahead and sneak Anson in there and his other picture in there. So when he was sold to Boston for $10,000, the fans were so upset that they refused to attend the Chicago's home opener that followed. The attendance for the opener was abysmal, but when the Bean Eaters came to Chicago, the fans poured through the gates to see their favorite player, even though he was sporting a rival uniform. And I'm reading this off of baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame, baseballhalloffame.org. It says, when Kelly played with the White Stockings, he began to study the rules of baseball and tried to figure out ways to get around them. Cap Anson gave Kelly credit for originating the hit and run play. Now, he was a very speedy guy. And not only did he invent the hit and run, but he invented many, many more strategies. In those days when someone would steal a base, it was more stand-up. And he was one of the guys that invented the hook slide. And they actually wrote a song, which was the first pop hit ever, which was called Slide Kelly Slide. And it was written because of Kelly and his base running skills and him inventing that hook slide. He also came up with strategies that are considered, commonplace right now. Some of the things that he worked on were playing off of first and off of third base. In those days, the players would kind of stay on the base or close to the base, but he played off first. He also, as a catcher, was one of the first players that started to adjust the outfield positions according to the player batting. So he literally invented the shift, where he would ask the outfielders and the players to move depending on who the player was that was batting. And that was one of the things that he's credited with also. He also invented the double steal, which in those days, people wouldn't even think of doing. And he also not only invented the infield shift, but he also invented the hit and run, because he was so fast that he would ask the hitter to just go ahead and swing and hit, because I'm going to go ahead and run. So he invented the hit and run, the infield shift, the double steal, the hook slide, and many, many other things that he did. He also credited by Cap Anson's credited for starting spring training. And the reason he started spring training was because of King Kelly. Because King Kelly, he was a drinker, and he would come to play really kind of out of shape. So Cap Anson decided that he was going to start training them earlier. And he wanted Kelly, one year that he came in, he was overweight, he wanted Kelly to lose 20 pounds. So he brought him in early and he invented spring training, and that was due to Mike King Kelly. Kelly stole at least 50 bases. And you think about, things that were done back in the day, you think about Ricky Henderson and things like that and all those steals, but steals were not common back then. But Kelly was the first big base stealer ever. And Kelly stole at least 50 bases in a season for 5 consecutive years, from 1886 to 1890. Now, these cards are produced from 1886 all the way up to 1888. I think some of them even 89. This is one of the earliest versions of the King Kelly card. In one year, Kelly swiped a career-high 84 bases for Boston in 1887. That was the year that this card was produced. And then in 1887, one game he stole 6 bases. And on multiple occasions, he stole 5 in a game. And, he was traded to Boston. And this is the card from Boston that he was traded to. And this is one of his most famous cards. And really, for me, this is my favorite card in my entire collection. Not just because of the beautiful card and just the gorgeous artwork on that card, but also because of King Kelly, one of really my favorite player of the 19th century. And so in one game, he stole 6 bases, and on multiple occasions, he stole 5 in a game. Kelly was one of the first players to regularly steal third base and home, something he did often in succession. And you think about players like Jackie Robinson and players like that who would steal home. He did this on a regular basis. He was a very speedy guy and really the fastest guy. That's why he played center field. Kelly also won 8 pennants in total with various teams, with Chicago and with Boston. So he was, just a leader and one of the guys that was really the 8 championships he won. And you don't hear about that too often. He led the league 3 times in both doubles and runs scored, and is one of the few National League players to have scored a record 6 runs in a game. He also hit better than 300 8 times. So he was a lifetime 307 hitter, but he did end up hitting, in some years, I think his best year, he ended up hitting 394, which was an incredible, back in the day, batting 394 in one season. And, he won 8 pennants. He was a champion. He primarily played in right field, but he frequently appeared in left and as a catcher. And in his career, Kelly played every position on the diamond. He even tried pitching on the mound sometimes. Now, some of his accomplishments, off the field, was that he wrote baseball's first biography, Play Ball, Stories of the Ball Field, which was published in 1888. So he was not only a great player, but he was also an author. Also, he appeared on Broadway, and he ended up marrying a Broadway actress. And so he was, you think about people like, Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe, and that was King Kelly back in the day. He married one of the most famous Broadway actresses in those days. Unfortunately, Kelly passed away at the age of 36 years old. He got pneumonia, and he was such a good guy that the reason that he got sick with pneumonia was that he was on a ship, and it was a horrible rainstorm. Snowstorm, not rain, snowstorm, and it was so cold that he saw a man that was freezing, and literally freezing. And he gave that gentleman his overcoat. And a few days later, Kelly ended up getting pneumonia. And because of that, unfortunately, he couldn't recover from that. It said that on November 5th, he was 36 years old. It was clear that pneumonia had set in. And Pud Galvin, moved Kelly to the emergency hospital. It was reported that Kelly came to the hospital on a stretcher, and he slipped on the floor, and off the stretcher, And he said at that time, "This is my last slide." He was given oxygen, and but unfortunately he passed away. And his health, and he was front page news in the Boston paper, and his death was front page news in every National League city. And 7,000 people attended his funeral, and his song "Slide Kelly Slide" was recorded by several artists and remained popular all the way through the 1920s. And he was a guy that took many advantages and did a lot of things and changed a lot of rules. One time, just to give you a quick story about him, when he was catcher, there was a pop-up, and he was actually in the dugout at the time, but there was a pop-up, and it was close to the dugout. And in those days, you had to tell at any time you could switch players. So when he saw that pop-up, Kelly went over to get the pop-up, and he screamed at the umpire, "Kelly coming in as catcher," and he came right out of the dugout. He caught the ball, and they called him an out. And it was a legal play at the time. Later, they changed the rules and said that you couldn't, switch players until in between innings, and you had to go tell the umpire. So that was another one of his stories, and another thing that King Kelly did when he changed the game of baseball. So many things that he did. And, a lot of guys said that, like Spalding at one point, when he was given the $10,000, Spalding said that it was a foolish blunder to pay somebody that much money. They said that he was a foolish blunder. But, Spalding was the guy that paid the $10,000. And they were calling him foolish to do that. But again, he went on to win more championships with Boston after that. And, Spalding laid a check for $10,000 on the table and told Kelly that he could have that check and a 3-year contract at a figure that he could name if he rejoined the Bean Eaters. According to Spalding's memoirs, Kelly asked for a little time to think about it, went out for a walk. When he returned, he said, "I've decided not to accept." Spalding said, "What? You don't want the $10,000? Kelly said, "Oh, I want the $10,000 bad enough, but I thought the matter all over, and I can't go back to the boys, and neither would you." So he was, he was kind of, really a team player, and he was really didn't want to accept the money. But eventually, King Kelly ended up being the $10,000 Kelly, and there it is, $10,000 Kelly. It was right on his card. And there's his Chicago, and he ended up leaving Chicago in the championship team. And there's his card from Boston. And again, this to me is one of the nicest cards ever. And I'll show you the back of that card. It's the Goodwin Champions, 1888 Goodwin Champion card. And you see it just basically has all of the players that played for all the teams. And that's the story of Mike Kelly, the king of baseball. And there's two of his most famous cards, and probably two of his most valuable cards, along with one of the rarest cards, which is the Lorillard team card that shows the Chicago team that he won the championship with. A true champion of baseball, considered probably the best player in the 19th century. Unfortunately, he died at a young age of 36, but he did end up playing a total of 16 years in the majors. He started at the age of 20, and he played from 1878 to 1893. Ended up with a 307 lifetime batting average. That's the story of the king of baseball, Mike King Kelly. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new from this. And I really appreciate you guys watching my videos and sharing some of my collection with you guys and some of the rarest cards out there. I think this is a Pop 5. And there's, I think, somewhere around 70 cards, 75 cards known of this card. And the Lorillard, probably less than 5 of these cards that are known to exist. The Chicago team schedule card. Most of these were probably thrown away after the year ended and the new schedules would come out. But you can see that SGC slabbed it in a huge slab, but the card is not as big as it looks. It's a little more kind of like a postcard size. So thanks for watching, guys. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and I'll catch you on the next one. Please like and subscribe if you like my cards and my stories. Much appreciated. Have an awesome day, guys.